Hi, I'm Summer with Masterbooks Academy, and I'm here in this session with Catherine Loop Hannon, who teaches our middle and high school level math classes at Masterbooks Academy. Catherine, it's so great to have you with us today.
It's wonderful to be here.
We're so honored you gave us a little bit of your time for this session. I'd love to introduce you to our customers and just give you a moment to share a little bit about your background and what draws you to the subject matter of math.
Okay, well, I was blessed to grow up in a Christian homeschooling family, and we actually used a lot of Masterbooks materials growing up. Saw God in science, saw God in history. Thought math was just this neutral subject. It was facts, and you memorized it, and you passed the test, and that was that. And I was blown away as a senior in high school when my mom handed me a book called Mathematics Is God Silent by James Nichol. And she's like, you read this and tell me what it says, because it had sat on our shelf for a while. And I started it thinking, what is he going to talk about? How God divided the Red Sea. And so you can talk about that when you teach division. I mean, how can you really view math biblically? And I was blown away to realize that really, apart from a biblical God, it doesn't make sense why we're even able to do math. And so it totally transformed how I saw math. I had always done well in it. I didn't have a choice but to do well in it because I came from a family where everyone around me was gifted that way. But I had not understood why I was learning what I was learning, especially when it came to algebra and geometry. It was like, okay, we're manipulating numbers. I don't know why we're dealing with letters in math now. But when I looked back from a biblical worldview, it was like light bulbs going off as I saw all of this as really a way of describing God's creation that was shouting out God's praises. And then I got to thinking, what did I really learn all those years? Why didn't I see this? And I realized that I'd really been taught humanistically and naturalistically, and I had not known that. My mom had not known that. But really, if we're not giving God the glory, then it ends up going elsewhere. And so I wanted everyone to get this. And so the Lord kind of led me through a process of starting to write and speak on it. And so that led to one thing led to another and to another. And here I am.
And here you are with Masterbooks. So we're so excited to have you.
Yeah.
We get a lot of great feedback about the Academy classes coming alongside families. But for those who are unsure of what an Academy class looks like, especially being taught by you as an instructor, can you give us just a brief overview of what that looks like?
Sure. So the Academy class has me walking through the lessons with animated slides. So rather than just like trying to read and understand all the math, they get to watch it step by step being walked through. And so it's visual and interactive, and so that they'll watch the lesson and then they would work their problems for the day. So they don't have to do as much reading or trying to figure it out on their own. They're able to kind of like sit and have it presented to them.
So that's really great for all kinds of different types of learners then to be able to relate to the material.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And again, that's something that we really love discussing at Masterbooks is eliminating those friction points. And so the Academy class definitely will do that for a variety of learning styles, correct?
Yes. And that was part of my heart in doing that, is not everyone, in order to bring in a lot of history and real life applications to really show God's glory in mathematics, it required a little bit more reading. Not everybody's a reader. I didn't want them to miss out on that. And so the Academy courses make it so that you don't have to do much reading and you're able to watch it and get it visually. Plus, math is one of those subjects, especially in junior high and high school, where a lot of students just need a little bit more hand-holding to understand that it's really nothing scary, and to have somebody guiding them through like, okay, so how do I remember this and study for this and keep track of the different aspects that I'm learning. And so the video kind of brings all of that in, which if you were to try to write it all out, would be way too much for a student to go through every day.
So just kind of coming alongside them then. And as far as incorporating a biblical worldview, that's something else that Masterbooks takes a very strong stand on. How does that play out within the lessons in your classes?
Well, so I start from the perspective that God is the one who created and sustains all things. And there's a verse in Jeremiah 33, 25 through 26 says, "Thus says the Lord, if I have not established my covenant with day and night and the fixed order of heaven and earth, then I will reject the offspring of Jacob and David, my servant." So he's saying like there's this fixed order of heaven and earth. Well, that's what we're describing with math. And so addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, that's part of that fixed order. And so every time you solve an addition problem and it works, it's shouting out that God is still keeping his covenant with that fixed order, which God was using that to remind his people that he would keep his other covenant too. It shows us that God is a covenant-keeping God whom we can trust, which means we better pay attention to everything that he said in his word. So that perspective gets brought in throughout the teaching as we go through it, kind of bringing students back to, okay, so if this is true, this is the God that we serve, are you trusting him? Are you obeying him? Have you accepted Christ? And bringing them back, when we look at different properties, this is just really a way of describing a consistent way God is governing an aspect of creation. And we can take it to the bank and rely on it to work because God is who he is and he doesn't change. And if we want our math to work, we have to align with how he set things in place, so there's so much of God's attributes that come through as you look at infinite numbers and think of how mind-boggling they are. Well, God is even more infinite than that. He is the creator of all. As you look at, as you use math then, if math is a way of describing this consistency as God created and sustains, it's not just a textbook exercise. It's practical. It applies outside of the textbook. And so I try really hard to show students how what they're learning really does apply. So they're not just learning to manipulate A's and B's on paper. They're seeing, that's just a way of representing an unknown. And I can do that because there's consistent relationships all throughout creation that is governing, like gravity. And they explore those applications as they go through it. And so I've written, some of the courses I've done are ones that I wrote the curriculum for, and then I made the course to go with that. Other ones, like the Jacobs program that I've been going through for Algebra 1 and Geometry, it uses the Jacobs program. And so I've built on, he already has a lot of practical stuff in there, but I've added in more of the biblical worldview, building on what was in the program itself. Does that answer your I'm sorry, that was a long answer.
No, it was great. And I mean, exactly what we're trying to highlight and showcase, because like you said in the opening minutes where you were introducing yourself, so many families approach math from, this very independent stream of thought where we do Bible and we do history and we look for God's hand and all of that. And then it's like we switch gears, and then all of a sudden, okay, it's time for math. Get your, flashcards and your number line, and let's sit down and let's just, pull through it together, instead of taking that step back and recognizing his handiwork it's like his fingerprints are all over it. And I know for my family, realizing that and coming into your math programs just opened our eyes in a whole new way, because I think there's so many of us that are drawn to the subject, but yet aren't sure why we're not connecting to it when we're just doing the drill and the kill methods and other ways. And then when we see, that God is the author of everything, including math, and how he has structured math in a way, it just makes that relational aspect to math and that real life application so necessary to families. So we love how you bring that biblical worldview in and the unique perspective that you give to those classes. For a week in your class or a daily lesson, what is the class structure like that a student can expect when they sign up for one of your classes?
So first of all, I want to clarify, because I think this might be a question in some people's mind. They don't have to follow a set, like they're going to do the classes at their own pace, right? There's not like a set schedule that they have to follow, but typically there'll be a schedule that will tell them what to do each day. And they would typically watch a video in the academy, and then they would pull out the corresponding textbook, and they don't have to read it all. Some students may want to, but you should not have to. There might be a few sections where I'll encourage them to read that particular section, but Everything is typically taught in the lessons, but they can pull it out to take notes on or consult while they're solving problems if they have any additional questions. And then they would pull out their worksheet and complete their worksheet for the day. And I will say, like with the Jacobs program, one of the Jacobs Algebra has a lot more problems than most students need. So one of the things I did in the e-course was have a separate schedule for students to follow who are going through the e-course, where they don't have to do all the problems unless they find that they need that extra practice. But it picks and chooses to make sure that all the concepts are still being covered and drilled and reviewed. So there'll be instructions for each course specifically. Like in the geometry course, I have them instructions on taking notes each day because there's a lot of memorization in geometry. And so that's a really key part of it. So everything's slightly tweaked for the different courses, but typically the flow is you watch a video and you work your worksheet. And the Revealing Arithmetic course, I also have one course that's a little different than the others in that it's targeted at the parents or older students that are reviewing concepts. But it's designed for moms who are just like, I wasn't taught math, right? How do I go about imparting that biblical worldview while I'm teaching to the elementary levels? And so it goes through the concepts in arithmetic and really shows how to teach each one from that biblical perspective so that a parent can feel equipped and prepared to do that. And if a student has already learned the concept to some level, they can probably watch some of those videos as well. Each video is kind of incorporating what is normally teased out over a bit of time. So you wouldn't want to do it with a child who's brand new to that concept necessarily.
So Revealing Arithmetic is a little bit different in that it's more of a review concept versus a standalone course.
Yes, it's designed to be a supplement to help parents feel confident in imparting a biblical worldview for the elementary levels. So it goes along with whatever curriculum they're using.
So kind of like that teacher's companion. It's like that high five to the parent that they can definitely do this.
Yes, that's the way I'm describing it.
Right here working alongside.
Or a tour guide. I like to think of it as a tour guide.
Oh, that's a great analogy. I like that one.
Yeah, helping you figure out where to go. So.
Well, and speaking of parents, what is the parental involvement that's really needed for these classes? And I'm sure they're a little bit different between principles of mathematics and algebra and geometry, but what can a parent generally expect?
So I've tried to structure it to be as independent as possible. It varies by the student because obviously some students are going to need a little bit more help in math than others, but it's designed to try to take the load off that parent and to cover things in the video. Parents will need to do the grading unless they want to let their child grade their worksheets themselves afterwards, but typically the parent would still grade. I do give my email address in the courses for parents or students to contact me if they're stumped and they can't figure it out. Because I really want them to feel confident that if they're in the course, they're going to get through it and they're going to understand it. So hopefully most students can go through it pretty much on their own with just some help with grading. But there may be cases where a parent will want to watch the videos with them. But hopefully that the videos would equip the parent then to know the answer to the questions that are coming up as well.
Gotcha. And so with all of the academy classes, are there required materials that also go along with the videos? How does that work?
So yes, you need to get the curriculum pack that goes with whatever that course is. So like for principles of mathematics, you would need the textbook and the teacher guide and the solutions manual that is for that level. And it's clearly stated on the Academy page, so you know what you need to get.
So it's easy for parents to go to the Academy site, see a preview of your classes. We offer a week free so that they can test them out, and then also have the links available for any of the materials that are necessary for the course, correct?
Yes, and by a week free, it's like a chapter of the course that's free. So you don't have it just for a week. You can take as long as you want to evaluate it, but it'll cover a chapter of the program.
And any of the classes that are available through the Academy site are able to be rewatched as many times as a student or parent may need, right?
Yes, which means like if you're starting midway through a program, you can go back and just watch some videos to fill in the gaps that you were struggling with. Or if you get partway through and you forget, you can go back and you can rewatch as well.
Which is also great because I know even in our own family, as we started to work through a program and then we get stuck, it's easy enough to add that academy class in at any point throughout the year and not feel like you're behind because they are self-paced.
Right. Yes.
And that's a great feature and something that I think is really beneficial in the way that the academy site is set up, is that it basically gives us access to you at any time that we need you, without you necessarily having to be on call for all of us mamas call in with math questions.
Yes, yes.
Great. Well, in closing out our session today, I just wanted to give an opportunity for you to share any words of encouragement. We know that math can be a little bit more of a stressful subject for some. And so if there's anything you'd like to share with our students or parents, just to give you a few moments to do that.
Okay. I would just encourage you that God understands it. And so run to him, and don't hesitate to let your children see you running to him.
Mm-hmm.
English was my mom's weakness. And I kind of smile at that because I'm a writer. But I learned so much by watching her bow her head and say, I don't understand this, Lord. Please help Katie learn what she needs to learn, than I ever would have had she known her English forwards and backwards. So don't feel badly if math is not your strength. And also know that a lot of times people struggle in math just because they were not taught it as that real tool.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to try to teach cooking without ever letting your child into the kitchen, but just from a textbook for 8 years, your child would think that they hated to cook.
Yes.
But they never really cooked. And it's that same like math. I can't tell you how many testimonies I hear from students who hated math, but it was really just that they didn't understand what math really was. And that when they were shown, all of a sudden it makes a whole lot more sense. So I think that when we teach it in conjunction with application and we're showing them why they're learning what they're learning, and how it points to God, like there's so much joy in that and so much more understanding than here, go learn all these rules that you have no idea why you're ever learning it. So if and I say that to parents too, because if you were brought up without that, you're scared of math, be encouraged that it is possible to look at it differently, and that it doesn't necessarily mean that you really are bad at math. You just might not have ever really had a chance to get in the kitchen, so to speak, and understand what math was all about.
And that's a great analogy. And I can attest personally, the way that I grew up and the way that I was taught math, it was, cooperate and graduate to move on to that next level. Right. And I hit a point where I began to fall a little bit behind. And instead of finding that extra help, the teachers just not ridiculed me, but they definitely kept saying, we just don't understand why you can't get it. It must be you. And so when it came time to teach my own children math, that insecurity came back, and finding the programs that Masterbooks offers, including your math curriculum as well as the classes on the academy, has created that very positive connection to math again. So if there's any families out there that have experienced that themselves, just know that this curriculum isn't even just for the students. I mean, as parents, we get to reconnect with a subject matter in a new and fresh way as well. So you can find all of Catherine Luke Hannon's class options at masterbooksacademy.com. We're really excited to have geometry joining the lineup very shortly, and then that will include Principles of Mathematics 1 and 2, algebra, elementary algebra and algebra 2, as well as geometry, and then the Revealing Arithmetic curriculum guide that has come alongside parents just to give that extra push. So Catherine, we're just so excited that you were able to join us today. We thank you so much for your time and just walking us through what your academy classes look like and the perspective of bringing God into the subject of math.
Well, thank you. It's been a joy to get to be here and to meet you.
I hope you've enjoyed today's sessions all about Masterbooks Academy, getting to meet some of our instructors and learning more about the different supplemental e-course options that we offer. To find out more about any of these classes or our other offerings, visit us at masterbooksacademy.com.